In the next couple videos, we're going to look at what is operations management and why do they make you take this course. So the first question is, what do you think of when you think of operations management? When they said you were taking a course in operations management, what did you envision? Well, we think about the operations of a business, right? So when we define operations management, we're looking at the management of activities and resources that create goods and or provide services. So these are all the processes, all the activities that we need to make the business run. Whether you're making something, whether you are a retailer selling something, whether you are a hair salon providing a service. So all companies need operations management, regardless of what you make or sell or do. So let's look at those processes or activities that are involved in operations management. A course in operations management is a bit of a survey of all these different areas of operations. So, for example, we need to forecast demand. We need to know how much of our product to make, how much of it to sell. How much do customers actually want? What we're also going to learn this semester is that these same decisions that businesses make about their operations, so do governments. So, for example, townships, cities, municipal governments have to make decisions as well. They have to forecast, for example, what the population will be and what the needs will be in the short term and long term. All right, so we need to forecast demand. We need to know what our customers or constituents are going to need and when. We're going to need to look at the production process, right? What are we going to make? How are we going to make it? What level of automation are we going to use? What is the process design? So what are the steps to make this particular product or offer a particular service? We're going to need to know our capacity. So based on our production process and how we make our product, deliver our service, make our good, how much does that mean we can actually make based on that process? And does it match the forecasted need? If not, we're going to need a way to manage or deal with that gap in between the forecast and what we have in terms of capacity. We're going to need to decide on a facility layout. So where are we going to be located? And how are we going to lay out that facility in order to produce the amount based on our production process? How are we going to lay out the facility? Whose offices are where? If we're going to have a manufacturing or an assembly line, how is that laid out? So these are all decisions that we need to make. We're going to need to decide on scheduling. How many people do we need to work and when do they need to work? We're going to need to provide some training and motivation for those workers. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time on employee motivation and training this semester since you'll take a number of courses in human resources. So we'll focus on these other areas here. But we need workers to be scheduled and we need them to be ready to work and motivated to work. We're also going to need to manage our inventory. How much materials are we going to need? What kind of materials? When do we place our orders? So if you're Subway, when do the orders for the fresh veggies need to arrive? How many loaves of bread do you need to make? What do we need to have on hand? How are we going to replenish the supplies that we need? We need to know where we're going to get that inventory from. So we also have a supply chain that we have to consider. We'll need to manage that supply chain. Who's going to provide the raw materials and when will they be scheduled? How will we share information with them in terms of how much we're going to need? So we also have to make sure that we're producing quality in the things that we make and the materials we buy. So how do we evaluate that quality to ensure that it's what the customers want? How do we define quality? Okay. How do we measure it to make sure we're meeting that bar? So these are all areas within operations management. Now these processes can be divvied up based on whether the process is a design process or an operational process. So a design process is a strategic decision. Strategic decisions are long-term decisions. So when we make strategic decisions, we're committed to those. Oh, sorry. Come on. We're committed to those for a long period of time. So typically we say design decisions are a 1 to 5 year commitment. But depending on your company and what you make, it can be even longer than that. So when we talk about strategic or design decisions, we are looking at those decisions that are really about how you set up your company in terms of what you do. So design decisions would be the capacity planning, would be your location, they would be your production process design, and often your facility layout. So these type of decisions are strategic. When we set up the business, we need to decide exactly how we're going to make our product, which informs the layout of our business and our capacity. We're also going to pick a location. So if you're Dow Chemical, for example, that location decision is not just a 1 to 5 year decision, but you're committed for 20 to 50 years. Think of all the infrastructure that has to be built in order to both lay out that facility and in its location. So these are things that cannot easily be changed, are the design processes. Whereas operational processes are the planning, scheduling, executing, and control. These are decisions that you're committed to 1 to 12 months. So, for example, scheduling, who's going to work? Well, we can make that decision a week ahead, a month ahead. They are shorter term processes. Even managing your inventory, that can be a multi-month process in terms of deciding who you're going to purchase from and when those shipments are going to arrive. Measuring and assessing quality is something that we do continually. Okay? So these operational processes involve planning, scheduling, doing, and then are executing, and then control is where you measure how effective they've been. So the purpose of operations management, why do we manage the operations? Well, the reason that we get involved in the way the companies operate, why we manage them, is because we are trying to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of a company. When we talk about efficiency, we're referring back to productive efficiency. And for those of you who took me in economics, I know you know this. What does it mean to be productively efficient? Okay, so what does it mean to produce efficiently? Well, if you remember back to economics, microeconomics, when we talk about productive efficiency, we're talking about producing at your minimum average total cost. So that minimum per unit cost. So if you think about it, a business has lots of fixed costs, right? Infrastructure, things that the more they produce, the more that they're able to spread those out across the number of units they're producing. But as we produce each additional unit, we need more people, more additional inventory, raw materials, and so the per unit costs eventually go back up. We're looking at how we can get the company to be producing at its minimum per unit cost. Why do you want to produce the minimum per unit cost? Because this will maximize the difference between your cost per unit and the price of that unit. Right? We want to maximize our profit, and we do that by lowering our costs below the price that we sell it for. The other thing we want to do in operations is we want to improve effectiveness. So we manage our operations to improve effectiveness by focusing on quality. So what does it mean to be quality in our customer's mind? And how do we assure that we are providing that quality? Are we being effective in providing what customers want? It's not just in the quality of the product in terms of how long it lasts or how it looks or if it functions the way it should, but there's also a responsiveness and timeliness that's required of the business. When customers come looking for the product, is it available? If we are Pizza Hut and we're delivering pizza, does it arrive when the customer is looking for it? Okay, how quickly can we respond to what the customer wants? So we manage the operations in order to improve efficiency and effectiveness.